there's a lot of, I mean, there was a lot of just like, I mean, it was like ugly talk on the post where I was just like, what the fuck is going on? And it was like people attacking each other for both sides. And it was, I feel like, you know, like some people want to be, it's okay to be mad, but I'm just like, some of the ways they would take it were just a little too far. You know, even there was years like, because everybody, I think, assumes like once bands hit a certain level that like that's just what they do. And it was always just like like my friend was always talking about like High on Fire, like in the middle of, I don't even know what it was, like what record in the middle of their career. And they're like, yeah. And Matt Pike's like going home and he's like bar backing somewhere. And I was just like, what the fuck, for real? So some of the things, like a lot of things we did on this record, we've done like touched on in past records, but very like lightly, or even it's not prominent in the mix. But overall, like the other thing is like, I think our big strength is us playing live and how we sound and the energy. Like, and a big goal with this record was like, let's figure out how we can capture that on record where it sounds more unhinged and like we sound live than it does like, you know, just say sounding like a studio record.
You are, by my count, exactly 2 weeks away from Hell's Heroes.
Yeah, that makes it even more ridiculous.
Yeah,
there's just extra. I mean, the festival is a lot of work, and luckily, people I work with are very good at their job. But it's still, I mean, it's a lot of extra things because there's a lot of variables, and you know, there's like almost 50 bands playing, so something comes up.
So around about now, because this is your 8th iteration of it, around about this point in the cycle, 2 weeks out. What are typically some of the things that you've got on your plate or that you need to deal with from an organization perspective? You know, and just generally kind of making sure that the wheels don't come off.
For me, I'm just reconfirming some of the stuff I said is going to happen. You know, like there's like, I mean, I make it really hard on them, but I've gotten better. Where like, sometimes I don't have like the amount of hotels right or something. And they're like, hey, these people said this, you said this. I'm like, yeah, I'm wrong. I fucked it up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some of that. Most of it right now is just asking like, hey, people ask for some extra stuff. Can you do this? Can we make this work? Or like blah, blah, blah wants to do this. How do we make this work with X? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned your team earlier, but how big is the team that you have supporting you?
We have one, two, three. There's like 5 main people. I feel like they handle everything. Like Christy handles kind of like at the top of everything from just making sure everything. She's like the head of everything as far as like operations and production and everything goes. And then more actual production is Mark and Sierra, who run like everything to do with the stage and backline and sound and lights and things like that. Christy also handles like everybody's hotels with also with the Luis that works with us, and also handles like the runner schedule of people with vans going nonstop for 5 days. Tina that works with us handles merch with all the bands checking in, and this like, you know, bands have to get their merch, tell them how many things they can bring. They have to check it in a certain time, then she has to check it in. Louisa, our bar manager, handles like some of our sponsorship stuff and other things, you know, just needs like for signage of the building. So it just, I mean, I feel like it never stops. There could be so many things like sometimes I feel like we could do at the festival, and some of it's just not feasible. Some of it is, but we kind of pull everything off, but it's a lot of work.
Are you worried about any flight disruption or anything like that?
I mean,
owing to the dynamic and changing nature of the geopolitical environment?
I don't think so. I mean, barring like the whole world blows up, I mean, I feel like it just everything seems to have always in the history of stuff continuously just go, except for when COVID happened, and that was about it. So, yeah, like everything that's happening is a fucking mess, but I don't have any bands coming from that area, so I think it should be okay, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I asked about the flights because I was meant to travel for work in 2 weeks from now, and I've actually pushed it out just because what I have observed is happening is that a lot of flights are being rerouted because initially they were going to go through, what is now quite dangerous airspace. And that seems to have a knock-on effect on just about everything else. So, I mean, obviously I was going somewhat in the opposite direction to India, but Yeah, I was a bit. It made me think of you, and I was like, oh fuck, man, that's not a
I mean,
headache
there's
you
always
need right
possible something like, chain reactions, that stuff set stuff off. But, I feel like most of the bands that are coming this year are flying from Northern Europe anyways, that are flying overseas. And hopefully we shouldn't have any problems.
You got you have a pretty sick lineup this year, though. I mean,
Hey.
Bloodfire Death. I mean, absolutely awesome. Let's see what else you got here. Enslaved, great. Aura Noir, great. Coven, very cool. I would want to see Coven live just for the thrill of seeing them do Coven and Charing Cross. I don't know if you've ever seen Ruim, but Blasphemous starts the Ruim show with that as like their intro tape.
Guys,
It just sets such a fucking cool tone for the whole rest of the show. I love it. Midnight, awesome. Sanctuary, awesome. Whiplash, awesome. Let me ask you this question. How big was the first Hell's Heroes versus what you're expecting this year?
the first year's Hell's Heroes was 600 people.
Yeah.
Like Sarah Thungle headlined, Midnight played. A lot of this stuff is like there's not a ton of bands in this world, so if I like them or there's reasons to come back, I bring them back.
Yeah.
But the first one was 600. We'll end up doing a couple thousand people this time. The biggest year we did was the one with Sodom and Queensryche. But yeah, it's somewhere like, it's in like 2,000 to 3,000 range most of the time. So, yeah, significantly bigger. Like the first one did 600, and the second one did 1,000, and then I think we went to 1,400, which was like the cap inside, and then it's just kind of been somewhere around like 2,000 to 3,000 after that outside.
Yeah.
Or outside.
And obviously, I'm not a Houston native, but it does seem from my outsider's observation that it's become a bit of an institution in Houston now.
I mean, for sure. Like I would say most people that come to the fest do not live in Houston or Texas. But anybody that's into metal that's not some kind of appalling metal that I don't like, I guess is probably festival. Like there's no deathcore on the fucking fest, and there never will be.
Yeah.
Kids have no idea that it's like old man fest to them or something. But yeah, I mean, everybody else, like in my world, it's like, yeah, it's a thing.
Over the course of the last 8 years, I mean, aside from learning obviously not to book Absu, what are the other big lessons that you learned from kind of promoting this thing on this rotational cycle for 7 years now, 8 years?
If I think the band's going to be a problem, they are going to be a problem. I mean, I'll put up with some of that so everybody can see certain things. And you know what? Some people are difficult. That's just how it is. If I want to make everything easy, then like nothing would ever be cool. So, but that's definitely always true. I'm like, yeah, this will just be a little bit of workout, and then it's like a big fucking workout every time.
Now, without naming names, who like not who, but give me like an example of like some of the crazy shit that you've had to deal with. I've got a couple for you as well.
So sometimes I go into stuff like I booked Agent Steel, bearing I know they fucking cancel everything they almost play, but I was like, well, let's see how this goes. But it was just interesting to see like things I don't want to get into those because those dudes are weird, but just the things they would say, like I'm all like this, you're gonna say like you're gonna cancel at this point. Just like you don't have to make up whatever the fuck you're telling me. Like I obviously know kind of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean I've heard other horror stories about bands being feeling personally insulted by the quality of the hotel, even though everybody else is at that hotel. I've heard. They're
like, we should have headlined this shit. I'm like, yeah. So should everybody else. Bring it down.
Yeah.
Like weird stuff like that, where I'm always confused going, the fuck do you think you should be headlining this fest for? It's usually like some of the older dudes, and like, that's fine. I know like they come from a different world as far as shows went. So is what it is. Like, I mean, most of it I feel like is just being able to I know how to navigate all those kind of people and personalities. So I can make it work.
Do you think being in the position that you're in as a musician across multiple bands, including Necrofier, obviously, that plays live a lot, do you think that gives you a different perspective on how to deal with those personalities and with some of that behavior?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I know what bands want for the most part and what things will make bands happy, Like some promoters will get all weird, like bands want like another case of beer. It costs like $25. I mean, is it the end of the world to give them more beer? And then the band's like, I had the best. Like one case of beer makes one band talk about how the festival was the best fucking festival they've ever played, And if they don't get the beer, maybe they bitch, maybe they don't. But it's just like little extra things like that go a long way.
Mm.
Or if they're like coming at something, I'm all, you don't need all this shit. I mean, some guys will always say that they need it, but at the end of the day, I'm like since I do it all the time, I have a better idea of what is actually going on, opposed to like if you don't play an instrument or don't play shows, you don't know. I mean, you can pretend you know.
Yeah.
And have an idea, but not actually know.
Yeah. Now let's touch on Apsu very quickly, because I'm sure the vast majority of people know what the whole furor was around it. But just so people don't feel like we're hating on the band if they weren't aware. Obviously, you were responsible for how many hate crimes and murders last year? While Apsu was playing,
I got mad just about the situation that happened with the band and ex-members, and there was a lot of, there was a lot of just like. It was like ugly talk on the post where I was just like, what the fuck is going on? And it was like people attacking each other for both sides. And it was, I feel like, some people want to be, it's okay to be mad, but I'm just like, some of the ways they would take it were just a little too far. And then the people that were supporting it went a little too far on the other way. So it was just a fucking mess. When really I'm just like, just Apsu's playing, like, relax.
Yeah.
Because that didn't happen anywhere else.
They're playing, and if you're not going to enjoy the show, then go stand outside and have a smoke, or go have something to eat.
On some of it, I feel like people thought like they, according to like some of the posts, like I ruined the fest or whatever was going to happen, and I'm like, because it was going to bring in a certain crowd. I'm like, have you seen Apsu?
The funniest to me was there was one post, and I think I even shared it with you at the time, where somebody said that you've made the whole festival basically from year on out is now unsafe for people to attend.
People got worked up about it, and I kind of like try to let them have their thing without just being super frustrated. In the end, they played, nothing happened. I think a couple people might have left and gone to lunch or something, but like it was still like, it wasn't that many, if it was any,
What sort of how big was the crowd that they drew?
It was a couple thousand people when they played. It was outside. Yeah. It was good.
Yeah. Now, I remember when Fortress hosted Ecclese. There was massive uproar about that, and same kind of rhetoric. Gary has made the festival unsafe and unwelcoming, and this, that, and the other. Yet, when Ecclese took to the stage, it was 1 in, 1 out in the room that they played. The place was absolutely rammed. But then the funniest thing about it, on the flip side, is there's a bunch of these sanctimonious bloggers that would review the festival and just pretend like they were never on the bill.
Okay, so in fairness to anyone that is like all like black metal witch hunt on everything all the time, I'm like, if you really want to do these bands, whatever you think you want to do, that's like, I feel like the proper thing to do. Like this, don't fucking write about it and don't talk about it. I feel like I don't know if any of them realize that the more they go off about it, like I feel like there's a segment of the community that will just like them more, or people just hear about them from them going off about it. And they think they're raising awareness in the way that like, oh, this is some sketchy band. But at the same time, they're just a way that like, everyone's like, oh, who's that? Let me check that out.
Well, 100%. We both grew up at a time when, everybody was trying to find Satan in everything that, anything with a guitar and a fucking set of drums. And that's how I discovered a lot of bands. I discovered Merciful Fate that way. I discovered Venom that way. You looked for the stuff that was being called out in the Christian literature, and you're like, man, if this is a band they hate this much, they must be awesome.
Yeah, no, you're like, oh wait, there's a protest from the church for this band. I'm in.
They're burning most copies of Don't Break the Oath. Oh, fucking hell, I have to check this album out.
Because that stuff gets weird. I understand, like, not like it ever happens, but like if there's like openly racist bands on shows, like, yeah, like that's not cool. I don't support
it. No, I agree.
But like when it's like remote, like somebody attached to somebody like 20 years ago things, I'm do people have better things to do with their time?
Yeah, like, dude, I mean, with the whole metal threat thing, I mean, look, I also believe people are going to listen to that stuff whether they want to listen to it or not. Or sorry, whether I like it or not, whether everybody else dislikes it, that's irrelevant. If you're that way inclined and you think that bands like Archspire are amazing, then you're going to listen to it. And frankly, you have every right to listen to it.
Yeah, I mean,
me canceling a show or me complaining about a show is not going to make a difference to whether or not some guy likes them or not. I mean, again, that's where you just exercise your individual agency and say, I'm not going.
I do think that, like, say, the effect of especially like Archspire and stuff like that on that fest is like there's a bunch of normal bands like on that on the rest of the festival, because if you had a lyric on the internet, every band on there is fucking sketch, but most of the bands are not.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, I feel like the most thing that did is it got like I feel like people that would have gone to see some of the other bands on that fest didn't go because of those.
Yeah. I mean, by all accounts, the festival seemed to go down really well. Everyone I know that either knew people that went there or that went there themselves seemed to have a very good time. The stage setup looked a little bit weird to me. It was like they were playing at a high school talent show. I'm not sure about the atmosphere.
I mean, so like when you put on shows like that and everybody's after you, I feel like there's a certain kind of place that takes those, and there's certain kind of places that doesn't.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Now, yes, a very important question relative to this year's Hell's Heroes. Have you started mixing the gruel for the bands that are going to be performing?
Yeah, we should probably start that sometime soon. But yeah.
Well, I hear that it's so difficult to tour in the States now, and everybody, it's unsafe to travel the streets freely, and then nobody's getting fed.
I mean, the internet's a magical place of whatever. I mean, like, is touring the States as like romanticized and amazing as it is in Europe? Like, no, it's not at all. But at the same time, it's touring. You might not get fed and like and like put up in hotels and other things like that. But the shows happen. People go to the shows. People buy a bunch of merch. Like, I'm not saying touring's tough, like, on any ways, but as far as like, I feel like anytime there's like here's how hard it is in America, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we won't. I don't want to get you into trouble, so we won't name it by name. But people can put two and two together. There's a public debate that'll be held, which I kind of feel is a little bit framed around. Here's why America is terrible.
Okay, you're talking about that panel that got announced? Oh
yes, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So I mean, straight up, they should have had more people on that panel that can speak to that. Like Nathan Carson's good because Nathan's an agent, but like some of them on there, like if you're going to talk about touring in America, maybe you should have. I mean, John's on there, so obviously John can talk about touring for a long time in America. But other than that, like I feel like there should be more people involved in like actual like touring stuff than there is like on that.
Yeah, I mean, again, no disrespect to
them to their face if they ask me that. So,
no disrespect to John. I've had him on the podcast before, and he seemed like a very nice guy. And I like Incantation's music, but I did also say this last week when I was talking about it on the weekly news rant. I don't know about not having money for food. I just and I was very keen to get your perspective as a sensible dude and a guy whose opinion I respect.
On tours, like there's a catering budget for the tour, and then it's separate. It's kind of divvied out by the headliner. So, I mean, like on some of that, it's also expectations of what you think you should get. I don't know. Yeah. Unless they're just out on tour and they're just not getting anything. And then I would say like they should call their agent to figure it out. But I don't know the situation with that. Besides, I saw the headline and I didn't even like look into it.
Yeah. No. So I want to get your, as somebody who doesn't know, like I've never toured with a band. I don't know anything about how it works, and I think a lot of people don't know either. So I was keen to kind of get the warts and all from you as much as you're able to share about, like, if you were to, like, let's say Necrofier go on a 15-date run in the States today. What is the economics of that roughly? Like, you're going to have to pay, I would assume, for transportation.
Yeah. You have to
give me the rundown.
like you wanted this as like we were headlining, or we're supporting? What's a good supporting?
Would you not be headlining, mate?
I mean, this depends on there's bigger bands to go out with, and it's always like
now that you're on Metal Blade, there's
no
more playing support.
I mean, now that we're doing a stadium tour, I don't really have to worry about a lot of things anymore. But so you say we're going to go on a 15 like date tour with somebody as support.
Well, let's say okay, you guys and Cloak, you hit the road.
Okay, so us and Cloak hit the road, and we'd probably get paid something fair, and we'd probably get money for like something along the lines. Each band member, like everybody on the tour, could get fit, like eat dinner, but dinner, not the rest of like it doesn't. But those, like us and Cloak go out realistically. There's not like the shows would be good, but there's not like a ton of money floating around just to take care of everything, because that's that's the other thing with people like with tours. It's some like the budgets and what's going on is also based on like how the tour like is going to go, because it's one of those things. Just because bands want to go out doesn't mean promoters have to just lose a ton of money on it, So I mean, it's kind of like a yin yang, where it's like the band's trying to get everything they want while the promoter's still trying to make money on it. Like, so it's like figure out how, like some people, because there's agents that go after people just like for this is what I need, and they don't care like what happens. There's some that really do care. There's promoters that will just, like you can do shows for all reasons. Like I'll take a loss. I like the band. I thought it was going to do good, or the show is going to do good. All sorts of different factors in that.
So what size audience would, like, again, let's use the hypothetical scenario of Necrofier and Cloak. On average, how many people a night roughly would you attract?
Depending on the part of the country, probably like 150-ish, like more in some, like in bigger markets, I mean like LA and New York. Middle America, like I have no idea, because it's like there's a lot of there's a couple pockets to play and things like that, but I would say on an average somewhere in that range.
So 150 a night.
150, yeah.
And how much would you charge for tickets?
Tickets probably be like $20.
Which is cheaper than over here. I remember when I was going to shows in the 2000s, like the early 2000s. You could go to some shows for £5.50. I think the first Mastodon show that I ever went to, I need to see if I can find the ticket stub somewhere, but I think it was £9.50.
Yeah,
and then obviously now it would be £90.50.
Yeah,
but, yeah. So
ticket prices, I think like especially back then, I feel like shows across the board were like $10-15 unless you were like a bigger band. But now, like it's like smaller bands can't, like, even if you're a smaller black metal band that draws a couple hundred people, tickets are like $25 just so the bands can make something that's not like $500 or $250 a night, which is still what you're going to get if you're supporting some bigger band, except you just hope to make it up in merch or something else.
And that was gonna be my next question. I mean, so I would assume the majority of your money is going to come from merch sales, right?
Always merch, like tenfold.
And so realistically, for a guy like you, are you going on that 15-day run and coming back at the end of the tour with money in your pocket, or are you having to subsidize this?
So we usually try, like, we have to, like, we go out, usually we'll make something, like, depends on, like, I can't give you like a figure, but we'll make it, like, we usually make enough to work, like, that it's worth our time. Like, and that's luckily because we sell a bunch of merch. If we didn't sell a bunch of merch, then we'd probably be eating it. Like, we'd for sure be losing money and like have to like subsidize in some way.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that it differs massively, that scenario, that reality, that differs greatly from what you would experience in Europe?
I don't know. I'll tell you in September.
Oh, you guys playing Europe in September?
Yeah, we're doing a thing in September.
Are you going to come through the UK?
I don't think it's coming through the UK, but
thought you wanted to meet me in person finally.
I did.
I'm not going to obviously be posing with you for a photo, because
there's another thing. I think it's coming up after that I think hits the UK for sure, but I'll have to double check.
All right, okay. I'll ask you about that when we're done recording. But no,
because like, for us, like, when we go play the UK, that's like $5,000 in flights before we even get there. And then we have to, like, hopefully a lot of like bands come over, like, so you can share gear sometimes. If you can't share gear, that means you have to rent gear for the whole tour. I mean, same thing happens when European bands come here. Like, but So it's technically easier for us to tour here than it is in Europe, but
Yeah.
But I mean,
And
there's all sorts of things, and like also, like some it's like some stuff boils down to like, oh, we have to have a bus. If you have to have a bus, then you got to make X amount, otherwise you're not going to make any money. Or or if you're okay taking a bandwagon or a van, then you make a lot more money if you got But some of that stuff sometimes isn't feasible, sometimes it is.
And in terms of where you're sleeping, you're sleeping in the van. You're sleeping on the. I mean, on the bus. I would assume you would sleep there.
If we're on a bus, like if we were sharing a bus with somebody, we'd sleep on the bus. But we usually just get hotels. Depending on like the area of the country, it's not too bad. Or we stay with like friends.
Yeah,
as much as we can. But there's parts of the country you can get decent hotels where it's not like a ton of money. I mean, obviously not like New York or LA or something like that, but like especially at other parts, you can usually leave the city a little bit and stay in a smaller town outside of it. And it's pretty affordable.
So you're not staying at the Waldorf Astoria, but you're also not sleeping on the street.
Yes, like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, but again, I think a lot of
shitty ass hotels because that was the only thing available. But
a lot of people don't. I don't think a lot of people realize, and honestly, this is why I wanted to ask you about it. I don't think people realize the economics of the whole endeavor, and actually the extent to which a lot of what if you go out on tour and you're playing shows, that truly is a labor of love. You're not doing that because you're out to get rich.
Yeah, I mean, we'll make some money, but at the same time, like it's not like we go out and tour for a little bit and then like we don't have to work the rest of the year and things like that.
Yeah.
Basically, it usually makes enough where it's worth our time going. So thankfully, but at the same time, like we're not. It's even there was years like because everybody I think assumes like once bands hit a certain level that that's just what they do. And it was always just like like my friend was always talking about like High on Fire, like in the middle of, I don't even know what it was, like what record in the middle of their career. And they're like, yeah. And Matt Pike's like going home and he's like bar backing somewhere. And I was just like, what the fuck, for real?
Well, dude, I remember when Fear Factory put out Demanufacture, Burton was in a copy of Metal Hammer magazine, I think, talking about how he was still working at a movie theater.
Yeah. I mean, it was a different time in that, and even then, I don't think it was easy. But especially now, like anybody that's doing stuff, unless you have like family money, or maybe you live in a country that pays for you just to be a musician or something. Everybody has jobs doing something, so it's not like you're just like, cool, we do music and make music and then fuck around doing family stuff and whatever else we want to do. It's all.
Not family stuff, drugs, pornography, dogfights.
But yeah, so it just ends up being like, you're just either doing band shit or you're fucking working.
Yeah. But for you now, personally, music is promotion, all the bands you do, music is that is work now, right?
I mean, for sure. Like I do, besides festival, I also book shows like just year round, like touring things of all different kinds of music. So I do that, I do the festival, and I do bands. So I mean, everything I do has something to do with music.
And are you in a spot now where you can live comfortably? Yeah.
All of it combined, everything works out pretty well. So it's it's a lot, but I mean, I really enjoy most of it, so it works out. There's sometimes it's a little too busy, but other than that, I feel like it's okay.
Yeah. I was going to say, my next question is, how frequently do you change cars?
Like for right now, so there's like right now is extra ridiculous because the Necrofier record just came out, and then I've been doing like just a lot of stuff to promote it, and then I'm still working and then working on again and helping with festival prep and things. So it's just been like why rehearsing for the festival or replacing for a show we got in a couple weeks. So it's a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Cool. Like this, even like before, like I got off like a call like a little while ago, and I was like, oh cool, I have like an hour. I'm gonna fucking take a nap. So then I would take a 30-minute nap and then just like work on a whole bunch of stuff until like I jumped on here. So, and that won't stop until fucking April, basically.
Yeah. Well, this will be the highlight of all of that. So
I mean, sure.
It's savor every second of it now.
Well, see, there's like, I mean, because things like this are either kind of like, oh, it's cool, but like, I mean, like you're one of the ones I look forward to because it's more of a conversation than it is just like a questionnaire.
Yeah. Well, that's always the goal of it. I think I've said this to you before, and I've said it on the podcast many times, but I feel for bands, particularly when you're around an album cycle and you're having to do 50, 60 phone interviews, and it's just the same questions over and over and over and over again. I don't want to hear any of that, and I also don't want anyone to have that experience of speaking to me like, oh my god, this is just the same as the 50 others that I had today.
I mean, it gets entertaining as long. I feel like on some of those, as long as they're all shuffled together and they're short, like it doesn't make me completely insane.
Yeah.
But, if they get long-winded on things that when they're not really versed in anything that I do, then it just gets like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah.
Because I mean, some of that, like I understand, like that's what they do, and they need to do stuff, or maybe they just want to cover it for a certain reason. But I just don't know why some people would want to have stuff on their show if they weren't into it.
When I think for you, I would imagine the frustration comes in when it feels like you're talking to somebody who's on assignment. Like they've just been, they're drawing the short straw. No, you have to interview Christian from Necrofier tonight.
They're like reading off the thing, and then they answer. Most of the time, I can automatically tell because some of the questions have to do with like this thing I sent to Metal Blade. They asked me a bunch of questions about the record, like so they could put like together a press release. So when there's direct questions like of quotes off the press release, I'm like, okay. I mean, they can be good sometimes, but like a lot of the times I can tell when it's just they're interviewing me and they try to do a little research on the band, but they're not really maybe into the band or even know what my fest is, or some of them like don't even listen to black metal from what I can tell. So I'm like, this is fucking weird.
Yeah. No, again, I've always tried for this to be something that is completely separate from all of that. But I witnessed it firsthand when I was working for Chronicles of Chaos. And the other thing that I witnessed a lot of is that it happens especially with magazines. It might not be a direct incentive, but there's a tacit incentive for magazines to do favors for certain labels because they believe that something else will come at the back end of it. So, for example, you'll see certain bands always be near the top of the top 10 or the top 20 of a particular year for that magazine. But that's because if it's not, then the label that represents that band won't invite them to press junkets. When they do stuff like fly people over to to listening parties and all this sort of stuff, they're not going to get a bit of that free scratch. And I mean, you can verify this with Katie, but basically everywhere that I go, even if I'm involved with a festival, I pay my own way because I want the freedom to be able to come back on my podcast, and if I didn't like something, I should be able to say that it sucks.
Yeah,
and not care about the fact that next year they're not going to pay for my hotel.
Yeah, that's on some of that because don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with people doing things because of certain whatever. Like, oh
no, I understand it.
We did this promo thing on the new band you guys have. We don't really know stuff about them. That stuff's good. But yeah, but when it's more of like when I feel like when it's like telling lies about it, like putting stuff at a certain level on your like end of the year list and stuff because of that is too far.
It's disingenuous.
Yeah, you can also all day long be like, check out this band, cool, this and that. But I feel like when your site puts something on there that's like, here's our top 10 bands, and one of them is like, what the fuck? Why is that band there? Does anybody really listen to that band there?
Yeah, no, million percent. How did the deal with Metal Blade come about?
We were going into we were already planning to do a new record, so it was already written and we were going to go for it. So I talked to Season of Mist. And I had like a list of demands that they didn't want to do, which I thought were not really that bad of demands.
What did those include?
I mean, I don't want to get into it too bad. Since but so
you've already called it a list of demands. You have to.
It was just like some promo things, support in certain ways. I was like, hey, we've been working really hard, and this next record is going to be a big step up. So we want you to back us in certain ways and do the stuff. And they said no to all of it. Like not even some stuff that didn't cost them any money, which I was kind of very confused on too. So I was like, I wrote them back just kind of like, is this how you feel about the band? And they said, well, if we thought we could find somewhere better that they would let release us from our contract if we wanted to go somewhere else. So we did.
Wow.
luckily Metal Blade picked us up because Metal Blade had already expressed interest in us before and asked us when we were out of our contract. So like that all kind of, I feel it was one of those things where I think a couple months before they had asked about us, and then when I went to go I was like, well, I'll hit you up after we get done with this next record. And then I went to go ask for the record, and they told me all that, and I went back. I was like, hey, you guys interested? Because now we don't have a label. Like, it was kind of like right time, right place. Like it was supposed to happen, even though it was a little strange.
You guys are an interesting signing for Metal Blade, though. I mean, I would say you and Cloak both, because I mean, it's not, this style of black metal isn't really, or traditionally at least hasn't been their forte. Is it? And this is something I'm genuinely curious about. Was it somebody that is long established at the label that signed you? Is it somebody new that's joined?
So it's the German office is the one that signed us, and they come to the festival. Like a couple of them come to the festival every year, and the like I think the last Catalyst on it, because they passed on us a long time ago, like whenever like our first record, and then we played the fest 2 years ago, coming out of that tour with Holder. So we were just like, I mean, it was like we were out for a month and then just like had a couple of days off and played the fest. So we're like just pure on fire, like from playing so much. And like they're like, holy shit, what the fuck? Like later when they were like, we were having some drinks, so like, well, we should have picked you guys up. And like, you know, can happen in the future.
You said, well, you know, this
that often a lot of like that. It's Bart's the one that picked us up, and Bart listens to like a lot of black metal and traditional heavy metal and things like that. So, and we kind of like borderline on like the edge of like that, some of that stuff, but also he lists like when I was like, hey, this is what we're trying to do and this is what we're trying to be. He's like, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Where I feel like at least in the past and like with like things, some labels, it just didn't really communicate like this is what we're trying to do.
Well, I was also going to say, were they surprised at all by the direction that you took with Transcend Into Oblivion? Because, you know, Prophecies of Eternal Darkness was its own thing. I felt Burning Shadows in the Southern Night was a big step up. Transcend Into Oblivion is a huge step up in terms of the kind of black metal that I like, but it is a lot rawer. It's a lot more, you know, it's a lot more aggressive. It's kind of filthy, you know. It's not.
Like, so I was like, "This is what our next record is going to be like," and he's like, "Okay." And then we recorded it before. I mean, like the record was done before they signed us, so we sent him the record, and he was like, "This is fucking insane! Like, this is a giant step up for you guys. I really fucking love this record. Like, holy shit!" Like,
dude, I was shocked when you first sent it to me. I think I sent you a message back, and I said, "This is going to be one of the best albums of 2026." I was not expecting not only the direction, but just the evolution in songwriting is just fucking mind blowing.
Because so some of the things, like a lot of things we did on this record, we've done like touched on in past records, but very like lightly, or even it's not prominent in the mix. But overall, like the other thing is like I think our big strength is us playing live and how we sound and the energy, like and a big goal with this record was like, let's figure out how we can capture that on record where it sounds more unhinged and like we sound live than it does like, you know, just say sounding like a studio record.
Yeah. I don't know whether you ever heard me talk about this. I think I might have mentioned it on a news rant when I was just talking about the album generally. But I said with all your records, with Prophecies of Eternal Darkness, you had a song like Betrayal of the Queen, which was kind of, it was slightly different to everything else. It was really it still sounded like Necrofier, but it was Necrofier really coming into its own as kind of its own entity, and it's having its own sound, like moving away from a band that really leans into its influences and moving towards a band that celebrates its influences, but stands on its own 2 feet. You had a lot more of those moments on Burning Shadows in the Southern Night, and then on this album, it's like that from start to finish. Like it's got a real American feel to it in the best possible way, but without kind of it's not ditched your core identity, but it really now sounds like like you know, you guys sound like a very unique entity now, and that's for me as somebody who's followed you guys for a while, it's super exciting.
Man, I'm really glad you picked all that up, and thank you. Because like especially I feel like the first record was more trying, it was like not trying, but everything that would come out was more like this is kind of like in dissection vein, going this way and stuff like that. And then as like I feel like the last record kind of went like not went away from that style, because obviously there's like dissection influence all over fucking everything we do, but it started being less of like this is what we're trying to do and more sounding like us. And I feel like the new record is how we sound, like without trying to be like, oh, we're playing second wave black metal in this vein, like influenced by this. It's just, I mean, it's in that range, but it's not like it doesn't reflect that we're just trying to sound like somebody. I mean, there's like I can't remember what you just said about it, like homage instead of just was it homage?
Well, what it is respect to your influences, but forging your own path.
Yes, because I feel like that's where everything went on this one, where it's it's still in the vein of everything, but it's not like just kind of just going a certain direction. This is like it was the first record. Yeah.
No, I as I said, I absolutely love it. What is it like kind of being on the inside with a bigger label like Metal Blade? I mean, Season of Mist is very well known, but for all intents and purposes, it's a small label. Metal Blade's substantially larger. Like, I mean, I would argue maybe one of the biggest, if not the biggest, independent metal labal.
I think it's the biggest
in the scene right now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. What is that experience like? How does that experience differ?
So on the core, it was kind of the same, where I just dealt with like there was two people I deal with like mostly on everything. If I have questions and this and that, talking about certain things, whatever, like most communications done to two of them. And then, but like big difference started going, like we started doing PR stuff, and there's like publicists for every different region. And Season of Mist had like Europe and America. And then, I mean, just like a ton of extra, like, okay, cool, here's all this stuff you need to do for the next month. I'm like, holy shit. Because I mean, there's all of them just firing on that. So like, if I've like scheduled, this gets pulled up with just like, hey, this is doing this. Are you okay with this? I'm like, yeah, just mark these times out on these days, and I'm free anytime else. Except I've done some things in the past, like I've done interviews and things in the past, and I'm like, cool, this, like what I thought was a decent amount, but not anything on this level.
How many have you done, more or less?
Like 40, maybe more.
Yeah. In any weird and wonderful regions that you wouldn't have thought of previously?
Australia ones are pretty entertaining.
Yeah. Oh, Australia's got a fucking sick black metal scene, though. And again,
like Australia, I'm like, I really want to go. Just like the vibe, and everybody in Australia is kind of like, it's like a like laid back, more kind of like, I don't know, like wild but laid back.
Yeah,
kind of vibe. I don't know how to describe it. Like almost.
Oh, dude, it's the best vibe.
California had a baby, and then it would be Australia. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe. So obviously I come at it from a slightly different angle. I think my Australian brethren, they remind me a little bit of actually South Africans in to a small part. They kind of have quite a Southern Hemisphere approach to life, like very no nonsense, no bullshit. Yeah. But then they do have some of that laid backness as well. But the scene itself, I mean, there's a big chunk of the Legion comes from Australia. And I mean, the bands there, whether it's Werewolves, Graveir, like, through to smaller stuff like Drugoth, I mean, there's some fucking killer music there. And the thing that's great about Australian music is, I don't know if it's because of the proximity that they are to other countries, or the fact that they don't tour outside the country a lot because of how far they are geographically, but it's almost always like the music is slightly off axis. You can recognize the style they're playing in, but there's always something really distinct about it.
There's even in like just rock bands and stuff from Australia, there's like a little bit different vibe. It kind of sets them apart from everything else. And I think it's got to be the fact that they're separated, and maybe like like if some stuff becomes popular, certain people are into things, especially in America or Europe, it spreads, and people, it's like it's around, where if you're not anywhere near any of it, like, why you don't either care or know.
Well, far be it from me to psychoanalyze the people, but I think they are quite headstrong folk as well. I mean, most of the dudes I know and that I'm friends with from Australia, I would consider them to be pretty headstrong and pretty kind of let's say they're very strong characters.
Yeah.
So they know what they want as musicians, and they know what they want just generally speaking, with general social interaction, that you get that sense from them as well. I do think that reflects in their music. And then the other thing is, most Australians, and I speak about this from a music perspective as well as my professional experience, extraordinarily hardworking, like unfucking believable work.
Like culturally, is that an Australian thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, so in my day job, especially, so my day job is quite different now from what it was. I still work in the same industry, but I was working in talent acquisition and recruitment, from 2004. But like 2005, 2006, 2007, I was working for an agency, and anytime an Australian candidate CV came your way, you knew that was money, because they interview well, they work really hard, and it is extremely likely they will land that job, get promoted, and then come to you with more business.
Nice.
It was just a given. They were all like that. So I developed my respect for them from the degree to which they were financing some of my luxuries at an early age. And then obviously I had the good fortune to meet, to actually befriend a lot of them as well. My plan is to actually go there in 2027, cool. If I can, because the Rugby World Cup is going to be there, and I would fucking love to see that. I might even make it to Baltimore this year, because the Springboks are playing against the All Blacks, two greatest rugby teams on the face of the earth, in Baltimore in September, around about the same time as Cedia. So I was thinking of going to Cedia in Colorado, and then making my way over to Baltimore to go watch that game.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, if you're floating around somewhere playing shows or whatever,
yeah, let me know.
It'd be fucking awesome to meet up finally.
I think hilariously in September I'm in Europe, but we'll see.
Oh shit! Well, I mean, we've known each other for a while now, so we do need to change this business of.
Yeah, I was like, we're gonna have to meet up sometime. It'll work.
Yeah. I mean, either we have to meet up somehow face to face somewhere, or I need to come to Hell Zeros.
I mean, there's that.
I know I've threatened it before, but we need to make that happen. But you're a man of many talents. I mean, obviously, when we spoke last time, you had Night Cobra going on. Then you also sent me that Terror Corpse record before that was released. Another serious fucking surprise. I didn't know you had that level of testosterone in you, mate.
So in all defense, or not defense, but Terror Corpse is like Matt and Dauber are like I would say that and Dauber are more into death metal than I am, and like they kind of like they led the charge on that. But as soon as we started working on stuff, I was like, oh, this is fucking sick. But I play bass in that, and I do like a lot of those high vocals. But Matt from Necrofier, our bass player, is the singer in Terror Corpse. Like he's never done it before. And we start. Matt kind of started this project with the old Necrofier guitar player Josh, and then Dauber Dauber drummed on the EP, and it was a little more grindy. And then there was another guy singing, and then after that it transformed into what it is now, which I'm all in. Which I mean, like I like some grind stuff, but I'm like way more a fan of like evil, heavy sounding death metal. So
you can definitely hear a bit of that in
the full length. I'm like, oh, it's out of my wheelhouse as far as like usual things I do, but like I really like it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people liked it because we were talking about best of lists. I was surprised by how many best of lists that showed up in. And what I loved about that was that it felt very organic to me, how people started picking up on the album.
Especially I feel like in that world, like Dauber's been playing death metal and grind for like I don't know if I can know 25 years. Like Dauber was in Insect Warfare. Matt and him were in Malignant Altar before, which did pretty well, like about 5 years ago, something like that. And then he's been in a slew of other Texas death metal bands and stuff like that. So that scene, like I feel like, especially as soon as like anything usually Dauber's attached to is really good anyways. So especially I feel like that scene pays attention, and it being on Dark Descent, it just kind of like fucking all the right people heard it and were into it.
Yeah, no, dude. Again, I think it took a lot of people by surprise. But I mean, the whole Necrofier camp seems to be a buzz at the moment with feeding talent into other bands.
It's like because I mean, Terror Corpse stuff happened. It was like we finished recording that Necrofier record like last October.
Yeah,
and it got mixed and mastered like in February, I think. And then we're working like trying to get the new deal with Metal Blade. And Dauber had a baby last year, so we were just like kind of chilling at home. Because like it's like we're between Necrofier records. Dauber has a baby. You don't need to do anything unless. So we did like a couple festivals, but nothing like no touring stuff came up we thought was worth doing or anything like that. So we were just kind of relaxing, which means us relaxing means like we got a whole new death metal record, and Night Cobra recorded a record last year, which hopefully is out later this year. Just like that. It just anytime we get downtime, something else pops up because one of us creatively is like, check this shit out, and then it becomes something, or it's like, or you know, if we have some downtime this year, we'll probably start working on like the next Terror Corpse record, and yeah, I don't know. It's like almost it's a mental at this point where people are just like, you know, it's like even my wife is just sitting there like, what the fuck? What's going on now? Well, nothing. It's not another new band. I don't know.
Is there a style of music that you haven't explored yet necessarily? That because you mentioned Terror Corpse or something outside of your wheelhouse, and I can sense the excitement at doing something that challenges you a little bit. Well, is there something you'd want to try that's maybe, you know, totally random, totally off the beaten path for you?
Not at the moment. There's some like I'll tell you about it later, but
rap.
I mean, that would be. There's like at the moment, I feel like it's like I'm kind of covering everything that I've been wanting to do. Maybe like a more gothy thing, except like but I've worked on some of it. It's got like I put out like a EP on some like kind of Sisters of Mercy stuff I did, but it's like I haven't like fully realized or like I haven't brought like the concept to full form yet, so it's not really there. I don't know what else the word is for it. Like it's going to happen like more full force at some point, except it just hasn't like clicked where I'm like, like the inspiration to take it somewhere more than just writing some songs that sound like Sisters of Mercy, you know?
Mm. Well, you mentioned Sisters of Mercy. Did you hear the last Lamp of Murmur album?
Yeah, last Murmur was really good.
Fucking fantastic. Well, what took me by surprise was the second half of the record with all that, you know, a real like Sisters of Mercy, Fields of the Nephilim vibes to it. It was fucking amazing.
He sent that to me, and I listened to it, and I was like, like these last couple tracks are insane. Mm. But I mean, he had some of that like on Submission and Slavery and stuff, where there's a lot of goth shit in there, and I always love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Somehow, really, like he pulls it off where it really works. Or it doesn't sound like
it sounds phenomenal.
It doesn't sound like it's trying to be goth or trying to go like unnecessarily putting some post-punk style in black metal, you know.
Mm. Like I think that's the trick with goth and post-punk. It can sound very easily like you're trying to sound like Sisters of Mercy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's one thing to be able to express yourself kind of in that mode and it sounds authentic, but the vast majority of people that attempt it, they just sound like they're play acting.
Yeah, I mean, on some of it, especially where goth comes from, I feel like that you know, people can write songs and things like that, but like, you know, the goth bands everybody knows, you know, because the fucking singer's like fucking nuts or like just kind of you know, he's a little off or he's super depressed or it's like or like super arrogant or whatever, like, and people can bitch about people having those qualities all they want, but you know, in like especially with musicians, artists, like if like sometimes when it doesn't come like that, or not that it doesn't come along with it, but sometimes that actually I feel like breeds what everybody wants, especially in goth. Mm-hmm. Like in that kind of world where it's like a, you know, like because before like that was, there's still that kind of thing where like those people were like, I feel like in that scene they're respected as almost like gods and special, like, you know, like they're like, oh my god, it's fucking, you know, like Andrew Eldridge, or it's even like, you know, Trent Reznor and things like that, where it's because Nine Inch Nails is goth for all intents and purposes, you know, but that, you know, like then like it changed, like where like stuff goes into like the anti-rock star. They just want everybody to be like one of, like you're just like, I'm just a normal guy like everybody else. And I don't think that really fits that.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
it definitely doesn't. And the thing with a lot of great music is, you know, you're talking about personalities earlier, but a lot of great music is made by very, very damaged people.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other way that it could be. Like I've got a friend who's, I mean, he's one of the most He's one of the most brilliant people that I've ever met in terms of just intelligence. But he's one of these people that he can sometimes, I think, view the world in too strong of a binary. And so he'll look at people and go, well, either that person is someone I like or respect, or that person's a loser. But what I explained to him once we were talking about it from a music perspective, I was like, the thing you have to understand is, Warren Buffett is not going to start a black metal band.
Yeah.
Like maybe Elon Musk might, but the world's most brilliant business people, their brains are not wired for creativity.
They're totally different.
Yeah. So for that, actually, weirdly enough, when you do meet somebody that's actually when you talk to them and they just normal people, ordinary dudes, it's actually quite, I wouldn't say refreshing, but I almost feel like it should in theory be the exception to the rule, because and not that you're a fucking slobbering psycho or should be a slobbering psycho, but just to have that level of creativity, I do think you have to be differently wired. I'm not like that at all, and I admire people that are like that, which is, I think, why it's easier for me to talk to and relate to folks. I mean, hopefully people feel that way on the podcast.
I mean, yes, there's some people, like, when it hits that level of creativity, like, they have a hard time functioning in the regular world.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's like blessing curse stuff, where it's like, cool, you've been blessed with all these things to do this, but you're having a hard time paying your phone bill because it's never going to fucking happen, kind of thing. But I don't know. Like, it seems to go, like, more than not, it seems to go with the territory when it hits people like that. Or it's like, maybe it's like the comprehension of what's going into certain things at a certain level, that, like, there's just no space left for just regular normal life nonsense,
Yeah. I mean, well, you were talking about Trent Reznor earlier. His life and lifestyle when he was doing the Downward Spiral, I mean, it's the stuff of legend, but it took him several months just to kind of come out of that zone, and it's something that very, very nearly killed him. Now, when you see him, he seems like a pretty normal dude. But I mean, again, you get guys like him. I'd say he's less of an example of this, but Al Jorgensen, when he got off the drugs, I mean, I'll be honest, he became a far less interesting artist to me.
There is, like, because I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, cool if, like, I'll lose out on, like, all this shit when people get sober. Like, Trent Reznor somehow got through that. I don't know. Like, that motherfucker's like more, I feel like, more active and creative. And, like, people could say whatever they want about the stuff he writes, but, like, he's still, like, I mean, he does movie soundtracks and other things too. It's fucking crazy. But, like, he got sober and, like, put it in whatever direction. Like, I mean, the dude was gonna fucking for sure probably die.
Yeah.
But yeah, Al Jorgensen, I don't know. I mean, sometimes it's like maybe like a certain level of drugs help you tap into stuff like that easier. I mean, well, they do, but and if you don't know how to do it without it or can't, then maybe you just get lost. I don't know.
I just feel like
you fry yourself at a certain point too. Like
if I listen to anything that Ministry has released post Filthpig.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually let's say post sobriety, and I compare it to Filthpig, I compare it to Psalm 69. Just listen to the insanity in the lyrics on Just One Fix, or New World Order. There's like paranoia, there's aggression, there's like, but it's fucking wild and all over the place and rebellious. But more importantly, that's what made Ministry so essential to me. Like, that's what made them so fun. And then you listen to more recent material, and it is basically like the transcript from the Rachel Maddow show, and it's like, dude, this sucks. There's nothing rebellious about this. There's nothing edgy. There's nothing dark. This is just fucking lame.
I mean.
I'm right though.
Yeah, I mean, there's like, I mean, I feel like, especially even like, let's go with Al Jorgensen. Like, he has a crazy life, and he wrote a bunch of fucking nuts ass amazing music when they it's like what, 20s, early 30s maybe.
Yeah.
So, and that's a different, like, I mean, I usually, even with some people, I feel like when they're part of something like that when they're young, a lot of things they put out when they're older aren't good, regardless if they're sober. Like, like even. I'm trying to think of a good example of this.
Well, Guns N' Roses.
Yeah. let's go with like Judas Priest for like Judas Priest, whatever, like, you know, goes X amount of year, comes back. Like, let's go with that Nostradamus era. I was like, you know, like they're just, I didn't like that. I didn't even expect them to put out a record that I would ever care about. Like at that point, right? You know, like I can't remember what the record was before that, but just nothing they'd put out for a long time besides like since like maybe Painkiller that I had really been into. And I was just like, cool, they're just an older band. Like, you know, people don't, you know, put out like sometimes like older bands don't put out records I like. Like Metallica hasn't released anything I've liked in a long time. It's not like garbage, except I just don't want to listen to it.
Yeah.
But then like Jesus Priest like fucking put out Firepower, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, this is amazing. Like, where the fuck did you come up with this? Like, I feel like I'm more surprised when older bands just knock it out of the fucking park out of nowhere, you know, where unless they continuously just there's a rare band that like their whole entire catalog is the shit. But you know, even without drugs, I feel like sometimes people lose, you know, your life circumstance change where you're not just like homeless trying to fucking score dope for fucking William S. Burroughs or something, you know. Like you're like, oh, you know, you have a family, you're just trying to make stuff work, and you're trying to do art based off of whatever you're doing at the time, you know, and maybe just, especially when it was that chaotic before, like how you ever supposed to live up to that kind of thing, you know?
Well, that's the thing. Lived experience directly impacts your art.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but like, you know, a highly successful band like Metallica, if you're worth $200 million plus, I don't want to say you've got nothing to be angry about anymore, but you've got nothing that will stir in you the level of aggression and angst you need to perform or to write another For Whom the Bell Tolls.
So I have this other theory on Metallica that like say like no matter what anybody wants to have their opinion on if the Black Album is good or not, that I mean it is like the biggest metal album of all time, period. Like no one can really argue with it kind of thing. So but like if like it's watching all those like the documentaries about them making that record and like what it went into that record, and like 3 of them got like fucking divorced, and like the I feel like this like parts of their soul and their like and just energy they put into that record they could never do again. Like it's too like, you know, it's like one of those things like certain records and like, you know, certain things you do like artistically will take a lot out of you, and I feel like they're just like, I mean, they made that and it's like it is what it is, and like all the records before are fucking insane, but like, you know, like at some point it's like maybe like you give too much and then it's just like you're there, like just because the level, like how much sacrifice can you add into it going forward, you know, like do you have anything left to give almost.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. And you're also, by the way, you're referring to the greatest of all music documentaries, A Year and a Half in the Life of Metallica, which is weird to have seen it. If anyone hasn't watched it yet, I mean, I know it's old, but it's absolutely sensational.
Yeah, we're not talking about Some Kind of Monster, which is like a whole nother level of fucking amazing.
Do you know how that crushed me as a Metallica fan? You know what it did? It crushed the 12-year-old who looked up to James to such a degree. Like James Hetfield to me, like it was him, and then later on it was Phil Anselmo, and actually Al Jorgensen to a degree as well. But like James to me was just larger than life. Yeah. And seeing him in the state that he's in Some Kind of Monster, it was like being kicked in the face over and over again. I fucking hated it.
That whole thing was very like, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. I understand that Metallica is a big moving machine that is more than like the cool band we love from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like whatever the fuck they decided on, that was not the right idea. I mean, I'll take all the weird movies they made that weren't any good or all that other stuff. Fine. Cut their hair, fucking load all day long over that fucking documentary.
So load for me does have a few. It has a couple of songs that I can live with. I really like Bleeding Me.
Like, there's some stuff on like when it came out, I was horribly offended. Like fuck this.
Oh yeah.
And listening back now, there's like a bunch of stoner rock riffs all over that. I'm like, did they inspire stoner rock coming back and no one fucking knew it? Like I mean, you know what I'm talking about? If you've gone back,
that's sort of bad. That's sort of bad theory.
It's about 2008. It was me and Greg and Venomous, and we were jamming we'll just jam shit unnecessarily. Like oh, someone was talking shit about it, and I was like, what's like we're on tour. I was like, let's jam fucking load. So we're listening to it. Like, what the fuck is up with all these riffs? Like I didn't even realize all this was in here. and not saying that like it comes off overall as like a stoner rock record and things like that, but there's a lot of that style riffs like all over that thing.
It is infinitely more listenable to me than any of the last 3 albums.
Because the new ones like I mean I know like when Death Magnetic came out everybody was stoked because like Metallica was turning to their roots, but it just made it. I mean I feel like they just put out a record that didn't suck, you know. But I mean either way it put it like it put them back into like I feel like playing with more bands that like me and you would listen to, like they took out Down and the Sword and stuff like that, you know, on that run in America. And they kind of went, I feel like it like brought them back around to like connected them to stuff that like I was like, oh cool, you're not touring with like Godsmack and like some other terrible band, you know.
Yeah. And you've got Lars running around saying his favorite band is Oasis.
I did go back and listen to fucking Saint Anger again because I was like, let me check out what I missed. I was like, maybe this is cool. I'm like, no, this is fucking terrible. Like I was like, I couldn't even listen to it as in it was funny. Like it was just even revisiting it, I was like, oh whoa. I've never made it through most of the record at all.
Well, so Saint Anger had the same effect on me as the movie that birthed it, Some Kind of Monster. When I heard the what's the fucking lyric? Well, firstly, there's my lifestyle determines my death style. That just, I mean, it's acid on my fucking nutsack. And then what was the other one? For fuck's sake. Well, Frantic Tick 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 Tock, that was also atrocious. I mean, yeah, the whole thing just all of it is awful.
It was a whole experience of like what is actually happening here.
There's a kernel of a good idea on a song called The Unnamed Feeling, but it was, I mean, it's so fucking cack-handed, and I think I do sometimes when I've considered it, I go, well, maybe I only like that part because the album, or that part of that song, because the album is so bad up to that point that anything other than fucking euthanasia. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. That's quite possible. Yeah, but I mean, just like we were saying, like even Load, I'll give like a shot and listen to some stuff here and there, but anything after it, I'm just like, no, I can't take this.
Well, so here's a question for you. How do you think it is then that probably a personal musical hero of both of ours, Glenn Danzig, managed to be at least up to a certain point? Like I would take Danzig Sings Elvis out of the equation here, but up to Black Laden Crown, he's a pretty consistent dude. I mean, Black Laden Crown is not as good as, you know, some of the real classics, but you still have Skulls and Daisies. You've got, I like Devil on Highway 9. You've got Lost Ride. I mean, there's some fucking cool songs on that last proper Danzig album.
Because Danzig, like, we went out with Danzig a couple of years ago, and it was right after COVID, so he was like back in like shape, like killing it on stage, like jumping off monitors at 69. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Jesus.
I mean, you know, like Danzig, like he's got his own like demons on other things, but I don't know. Like, I mean, like. For, you know, it was like forever. It was like, oh, cool, he's the dude from the Misfits, and then he has like his own career. Which like some of those albums are just fucking insane, like some of the best shit ever. And then like some people don't like that Danzig stuff you're talking about, but I feel like a lot of that stuff is great. Like even it's like well, I can't remember what record it was. Someone was like, oh, do you like this? Like, oh, I'll pull it up. And I can't remember. They're like, do you jam this album? And I was like, I don't really jam that. And I was like. And I went back and listened to it. Like it's like later Danzig. I was like, this is fucking amazing. Like, how did I fucking sleep on this? I think
Death Red Sabbath. I really like that.
Satan's Child's what I'm talking about.
Oh, dude, that's one of my favorite Danzig albums.
Because I just didn't listen to it because sometimes, like, you know, like what I was talking about when older bands sometimes put out music, I don't want to be like depressed by whatever they just released.
Yeah. No, I saw them.
I went back and jammed that, and I was like, holy shit.
It's fucking excellent. I saw them play a couple of tracks off that album live a few times. But there's a track 4 on there, Unspeakable, when they do that live, especially when Johnny Kelly is drumming for them. Holy Jesus, it's good. It's got this like groove and the swagger. It's just a perfect live track. I
mean, yeah, Danzig's superhuman. Who knows? Or that he's just drinking like the blood of young virgins, and he's like failing keeping himself.
So, what is on the cards for you? You know, post basking in the afterglow of this glorious new release. What is and obviously Hell's Heroes? You mentioned going to possibly to Europe in September. What else have you got planned?
We're playing like Maryland Death Fest in May. We're playing Mexico at some big fest in San Luis in May, and then there's a couple other tour things that are like in the works, but nothing's like solid enough. I mean, concrete enough or whatever. But I mean, we'll be out on tour. I think like in the States, probably like a couple runs this year, and then Europe in September, and then I think we're looking at coming back maybe hopefully to Europe like the following spring. So everything seems so good so far. Especially I'm like this. Cool. We finally got into Europe. All right, I'm happy. Like it's a little easy. I mean, it's like it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. So it's because I've only been over in past bands and just played like some fests and then came home. So like doing a proper tour is important for me.
Yeah. Well, on to bigger things. I absolutely am confident this is going to be a big album for you guys. So, congratulations, my man. I think you've done a superb job. Great talking to you again as always as well. Let's make some point in the next 12 months the point that we finally shake hands.
Yes. Okay. We'll figure it out.
Gentleman's choice. What track did we play off of the new Necrofier album?
Play the first track.
All right. So we're going to go into Fires of the Apocalypse, Light My Path, Part 1. Stick around. I'm going to come back with the weekly news rant later on. Thank you very much for your time, my man. Talk to you soon. Capping off my conversation with Christian Larson, you just heard him croon his way through a track called Fires of the Apocalypse, Light My Path 1. That is taken from the new Necrofier album, Transcend Into Oblivion, out now on Metal Blade Records. Loads of positive buzz about this, and justly deserved. It is a fantastic album, and if you haven't listened to it yet, make sure you follow the Bandcamp link in the description to the podcast. Check it out. And if you like what you hear and you end up buying something, you let Christian know who it was who sent you. Big thank you to him for his time. A pleasure, as always, to talk to him, and he knows he has a standing invite to come back to Mean Street Studios anytime he wants. Next week, I'm going to be talking to Simon Lucas and Chris Norton from Winterfilleth, another album that has a lot of hype around it at the moment, or at least a lot of anticipation around it at the moment, is the upcoming Winterfilleth record, The Unyielding Season. That is due for release on March the 27th. As somebody who has heard the whole thing, I can tell you that a lot of that anticipation is justly deserved. If you enjoyed their previous album, The Imperious Horizon, this is kind of more of the same, but in the best possible way. If you think about it like a volume dial, they've taken every element on The Imperious Horizon and they've just turned it up a couple of notches. But it was good talking to those guys. You're going to see a lot of interviews floating around with them. Trust me, you're not going to see one like the conversation that we had at the point that I'm recording this. We put that one in the tank about 2 days ago. So that's coming your way next week, but you still have at least an hour or so of Old Jackson left. The weekly news rant is coming up shortly. Before that, though, we got us a premiere on the Sphere. Graveir are a band who you should be familiar with if you follow this podcast. I've had Nathan Glover from Graveir on the show many times, both sitting in on news rants. He's a mainstay when it comes to doing my my top 30 countdown extravaganza every year. The last Graveir album, King of the Silent World, got released in 2020, and it was actually off the strength of that record that I reached out to Nathan, and a friendship and alliance was formed. Now, they have recently announced that they signed to Apocalyptic Witchcraft Records, and their new album, entitled A Festering Triad, will be released on May the 29th. For your listening pleasure, in a world exclusive, you'll get to hear the very first single off of that album right now. This is a track called A Futile Exhortation.
Sucking vapors through wells of
A futile exhortation by Graveir out of Australia, taken from their upcoming album, The Festering Triad, due for release on May the 29th through our friends at Apocalyptic Witchcraft Records, and the pre-order link for that record is going to be available, or will be live, from March the 18th. So I'll post it in the description to the podcast. If you like what you heard, make sure you get yourself a pre-order and let Nathan Glover and the gang know who it was who sent you. Really, really good to hear them back in action. And unsurprisingly, I think the song is absolutely exceptional. Once again, I've heard the whole album. Can tell you right now, if you like what you heard there, you're going to love the rest of it. I should also give a shout out to Connor at Apocalyptic Witchcraft Records, one of the longest serving allies of this show. I mean, he has supported Into the Necrosphere pretty much when I was still in single digit episodes. And, he knows it, but I'll just say it publicly. I really appreciate it. And I'll always show the respect and the love back to that label because, if that dude is as real as it gets in terms of the music he puts out, how much he believes in what he does, and how much he supports the underground. Hope you enjoyed that. Coming up, the weekly news rant, but just a quick reminder, if you aren't already doing so, you should be following my fellow horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse, because it's not just Tuesday where your eardrums could be filled with the sounds of metal, shit talking, and all the things that make life worth living. On a Monday, we've got Branded Legion with Horrible 666. On a Wednesday, Mike Hill presents Everything Went Black. Cheyenne presents Iblis Manifestations. Thursdays, we've got Necromaniacs. That sees the return of Mike Hill. He's joined by Mike Scandado and Jeff Kashid, one of my favorite shows of the week. And then on a Thursday and a Sunday, we have a dose of Soul Knox, and that is hosted by the Sinister Minister himself, Carl Haikara. So check out those shows. Also check out intothenecrosphere.com for episode playlists. If my accent confuses you and you happen to miss a particular band that I was talking about, particularly on the news rant, I'll feature all the songs that I have on the show or on any particular episode on that playlist. There's also a bunch of other stuff that you can do on intothenecrosphere.com. There's a contact form where you can get in touch and send me your music if you're in an unsigned band, and all sorts of good stuff. Really appreciate the feedback for the website, of course, as well, including any feedback around suggested tweaks or improvements. We're working on it every single week, so we will get that to be a hub at some point that I think will hopefully serve more than a purpose beyond just advertising the show. Right now, my friends, if you're the kind of sniveling worm who starts weeping profusely when somebody defaces your precious hammer and sickle commie flag, then take your burlap sack, your fucking unemployment card, and your copy of Das Kapital and hit the bricks, because this is my weekly news rant.
Round them up for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
All right, friends, as always, we kick off on metalstorm.net, the finest metal news website in all the land. I'm going to get into the headlines in just a second, but a quick update for all of you on the great show format debate. Looks like the format changes are here to stay. A lot of you sent me feedback, saying that removing the introduction that I used to have, replacing it with a cold open and then straight into the interview is way better. Don't think I've heard anyone make any claims or arguments to the contrary. So, looks to me like it's going to stay. I would also say, one of the reasons why I did it was to see whether or not it would have a impact on the performance, and the last two episodes outperformed based on my expectations. So it seems like it was an experiment worth doing. I mean, I honestly think I may have made a bit more of it in my own head than I should have. But be that as it may, new show format stays. And like I said, the only other thing that I may consider doing is reposting the news rant portion of what I do as a separate upload every Friday. But it's not going to be separate as in it'll be an additional upload. So the full fat, all bells and whistles, VIP into the Necrosphere is what you're going to get on a Tuesday. But then I might just repost the weekly news rant on a Friday. So anyway, enough of all of that. We're going to dive into the first headline. I'm also going to do some questions this week. I still have a few left from the last time that I asked you all for questions. So we'll get to those. But first, Conan unleash Anger Mask, their brand new single. Stoner Doomers Conan have teamed up with Decibel Magazine for their newly streaming track Anger Mask, which will be part of their upcoming 10-inch DIY release. Let's give it a spin. Right, we're going to cut it short there because the song is only 2 minutes and 16 seconds. For those interested, by the way, it doesn't look like there's a release date announced yet for, at least not at the point I'm recording this, for that DIY series issue 2. But it is coming out this year. Will contain 3 tracks, including Built for Dominance, Anger Mask, which is the single that we just heard, and Cryptic Blades. So look out for that if you're a fan of Conan. I think if you're a fan of Conan, you will have loved what you just heard. Some cool crust punk elements added into sort of their usual sludgy, just wall of sound that they hit you with. But it sounds aggressive. It sounds catchy. It sounds like Conan. It gets a thumbs up. Okay. Moving swiftly along, Cradle of Filth will enter the studio soon. I would imagine fresh from fleecing more people for money. Well, Danny Filth needs to, he needs some cash to pay for these looming court cases. I think there's going to be court cases as far as I know. Anyway, in fact, have I misremembered this, or is there a class action lawsuit pending against Cradle of Filth? Let's quickly have a gander. Because I don't want to just make a throwaway comment. Yes, there is. So I did not misremember. 6 ex-members are filing a lawsuit against Danny Filth. So unsurprisingly, they're going to need to take to the studio soon to help pay for them O.J. Simpson level lawyers. But next up, we've got Deathstorm, who are releasing their next studio record in May. On May the 22nd, Austrian thrashers Deathstorm will unleash their 5th studio album, dubbed Cacophonies. Alongside disclosed details, you can also check out the first streaming single called Mask of Sanity. These guys were originally called Damage, and they changed their name, I think, in 2010. Then they've put out a couple of albums as Death Awakes. That was their debut album, came out in 2013. Blood Beneath the Crypts came out in 2016. Reaping What Is Left, 2018. For Dread Shall Reign in 2020. And then I would assume a COVID and life-imposed hiatus. Back now. I have liked previous releases that they've put out, so let's hear what Mask of Sanity sounds like.
Torture and pain.
almost feel like we're having to pause there on the absolute best part of the song. But again, it's only 3 minutes 27, and we've already been listening for just over 2 minutes. I like it. You know, there's a lot that you can say about the thrash revival. I mean, it has been going on now for quite some time. But unlike other movements in the scene, you know, whether the first one that comes to mind is metalcore or deathcore or any of that fucking trash. At least thrash, or the thrash revival, has turned up some pretty goddamn good bands. You know, I've spoken ad nauseum about Fugitive. I've spoken about Hellripper many times. And by the way, I'm going to be interviewing James McBain from Hellripper very soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Enforced is another fucking great band. Last week, we listened to Cruel Force, another superb band. And I would add Deathstorm to that list. Definite hints of old school Creator, old school, maybe Sodom thrown in here, which should be no surprise given where they're located in the world. But I can also hear a bit of early Sepultura. I can hear a bit of early Death. There's like a harder edge to what they do than maybe a lot of other bands in the scene. Really love those vocals, I've got to say. And then we get to that breakdown that we just heard now, and it is brilliant. Catchier than a case of crabs. Really elevates the song. Is kind of one of those payoff moments in a track where, you know, you sort of had speed before that, and then, you know, this nice, you know, beat down piece enters in. I can imagine how well that would go if they play that live. So yes, again, as with our previous song, this is going to get the seal of approval from old Jackson. That is going to be a thumbs up, no question about it. Really like it. As I said, I mean, it just works on every level. Nothing that is going to be astonishingly or that could be seen as astonishingly original, but yeah, that is irrelevant. When the execution is that good, I am on board, no question about it. All right, let's answer a couple of quick questions before we get on to the next track. Let me just get those up here, and I can Griffin_in_2 asks, if you were to rank Marduk's albums, where would Memento Mori sit? Now, I actually went away and I did a bit of reflection on how I would rank the vast Marduk discography. Right now, my feelings are, at number 1, Wormwood. At number 2, Romans 5:12. At number 3, Serpent Sermon. Big shock if you've started to notice the common theme in those records. I would put Memento Mori at number 4. Plague Angel I would put at number 5. At number 6, I would place Panzer Division Marduk. At number 7, Heaven Shall Burn. At number 8, Opus Nocturne. At number 9, Franchwine. At number 10, World Funeral. At number 11, La Grande Danse Macabre. At number at number 12, Those of the Unlight. At number 13, Nightwing. 14, Victoria. And at number 15, Dark Endless. I would say this of Marduk, as you go down that list, even Dark Endless has more than its fair share of solid moments. Even Victoria, that I would consider to be vastly inferior to the other Mortis records, it still has songs like the closing track on the record, Silent Night, which I think is fucking fantastic. So it's still, there are still things to salvage on that album, but then, you know, that trilogy of Wormwood, Romans 5:12, and Serpent Sermon, that isn't just prime Marduk, that is just prime black metal. If you want a textbook definition of what I think absolute tier 1 black metal sounds like, those 3 albums are it. Phenomenal. And I think Memento Mori is good enough to where it nips at the heels of those records, not necessarily being superior to them, but they've done enough things across that album that are different to make it interesting. But the identity of Marduk is still very, very much intact. And on top of that, of course, you've got Mortis delivering just another absolutely top-tier vocal performance. So there you go. My top to bottom Marduk album ranking. Nico.Katsatos has asked, have you heard any updates on new music from Oculus, Akakaka, or Ulcerate? The answer is nothing on Oculus or Ulcerate, although I would assume they're working on new music. But If I were a betting man, I would say you'll probably hear something new by them in 2027 at the earliest, more likely 2028. Akakaka, this is totally hearsay, but I've got this from sources close to the band, not from the band themselves. There is a new album that's been written. I understand it's been recorded as well, and for whatever reason, it's not been released. Now, I don't know whether that is down to them not being able to find a label, which I would find quite surprising, but perhaps just a label that they can come to agreeable terms with. I don't know whether that's due to a differing point of view within the band on, what direction they should take. But I know there is something apparently done, and, it remains to be seen whether we'll actually end up hearing it. When I have David Gray and Jason Mendonça on the hot seat at Fortress Forum, taking place at the end of May, you can be rest assured I will be posing that question. Personally, as a huge Akakaka fan, my preference would be that if we're going to be given another record in the direction of Renaissance and Extremis, I would just assume they not release it. The more I have lived with that record and try to go back to it and enjoy it, the more I just find myself bitterly disappointed. It's not a bad album. It's not, it's not what I would call rubbish. It wouldn't earn a brown down on the news rant, but when you compare it to the masterpieces that were Goat of Mendes, Corazon, and Words That Go Unspoken, the deeds that go undone. And if you recognize the if you know with that joke that I just made with my accent there was this fucking hysterical video that was on the CD of this fucking lunatic doing like an interview with Akakaka, but he's the psycho with this weird accent. Maybe I'll play some of it on the news rant at some point. You can find it on YouTube as well. But anyway, that bullshit aside, those three records, absolutely peerless masterpieces, and I would argue even Antichrist, that doesn't always get the praise and the respect that it deserves, is vastly superior to Renaissance and Extremis. Renaissance and Extremis, too little Satan. It's that simple. There's not enough Satan on that record. So I hope that they can course correct and come up with something that is more aligned to the Akakaka that we know and love. But I also concede these are grown men. They're not in their 20s anymore. They're now in their 50s. Life moves on. Maybe their interests have moved on. Maybe their creative inspiration has evolved. So either way, we'll get to the truth of things. We'll get to the bottom of things at the end of May. Next up, we've got Archspire revealing their third new single. Canadian technical death metal band Archspire have unveiled Red Goliath, the third single taken from their upcoming crowd-funded album Too Fast to Die, which is set for release on April the 10th. A couple of interesting nuggets for you on that. So they are going to be putting out this album independently. They launched a crowdfunding campaign, I think it was in November of last year. I might be wrong on the date. But either way, they launched it last year. They called it Archspire Independence Day. Their initial funding goal was for $125,000 US. Within 12 hours, I believe, they actually hit that funding goal. And then they raised in total about $286,000. They had about 3,600 supporters, all in all. And of course, this is a massive, massive success in terms of crowdfunding for a band of this size. When there's absolutely no doubt about that. So it's going to be interesting to see how the album fares and whether or not this is a model that they stick to. But I do think, and there will be more conversation about this in the conversation that I have with, or the interview that you'll hear with Winterfilleth next week. But I do think there is going to be a shuffling of the deck as far as record labels are concerned. Record labels are going to have to move with the times, evolve, and actually add real value to bands, because increasingly it is within a band at Archspire's level. It's within their gift to basically work completely independently from a label, not have to hand over 80% of their earnings, and actually make a fairly good living, all things considered. There are boutique agencies that can take care of press. There's boutique agencies that can take care of distribution. They don't need a label that kind of brings all of those elements to the table, but nothing else, and expects the vast majority of your money just because they give you an advance to record a record. So, yeah, let's see what happens. For now, though, let's hear the song. Now, you all know I'm not the biggest fan of Archspire as it is, But guitarist Dean Lamb here does promise to us that this apparently is their equivalent of a black metal song. So let's hear if this young man was correct, or whether it's all just marketing bullshit. Okay. Objectively speaking, here are the things that I like about that song. So I think the melody is actually pretty cool. There's definitely a hint of black metal there. So Dean Lamb, you're off the hook. The bass performance by Jared Smith is absolutely incredible. As I was hearing it on these cans, it was coming through crystal clear, but I mean, he is all over the place. He sounds phenomenal. Drums, guitars. I mean, there is no question these guys are extraordinary players. What I don't like is Oliver Ray Alleran's vocals. It technically speaking, they are as proficient as as everybody else in the band with their instruments. There's certainly no way that I could do those rapid fire machine gun vocals, but when it comes to real convincing severity, there's no way that you are gonna tell me that Glenn Benton on Legion or on Deicide doesn't sound a fucking million times better than that. That just sounds to me too mechanical. It doesn't sound like something that's from the guts. You know what I mean? Like, if we think of some of the finest death metal performances of all time, the great masters, Obituary, I would say Chuck from Death. I mean, even David Vincent in the early days of Morbid Angel, like David Vincent on Blessed Are the Sick, that sounds way fucking nastier, way more menacing and evil than Oliver sounds on that song. So that's kind of what would put me off. I mean, the whole thing, if you're an Archspire fan, I absolutely think that you are in your element hearing what we just heard now. Just me personally, it's a little too produced, it's a little too clean, and it's a little too mechanical to really be my thing. But I must concede that in terms of proficiency on their instruments and like basically knowing what they're doing, there's no question they really know their shit. You'd be a fool to say otherwise. It does bring me to a very funny question that I received from Cam Shave, long-serving member of the Legion. He says, what music would you rather listen to if a gun were to your head and you were forced to listen to it? Metalcore or tech death? I think I'd ask for the bullet. So, I will say tech death. I mean, metalcore to me is the biggest shite on the face of the earth. I don't believe, if you put a gun to my head, I don't think I could name you 5 metalcore songs that I actually like. I don't even think I could name you the name of 5 metalcore songs, quite frankly. The only one I have ever heard, and I thought, that's pretty cool, it was catchy. It was a bit, certainly different to the other stuff that this band puts out, but Life to Lifeless by Killswitch Engage, which I know is a relatively popular song, but I could handle that. I don't think there's a single other metalcore track that I have ever heard that I like. I hate the singing. I hate the pretend heaviness. It's just everything about it just puts me off. I can't stand it. Okay, let's do another track. Warsenal reveal a new single. Canadian thrash metal trio Warsenal have released a new single and official music video for Mass Grave Mass. The track is taken from the band's upcoming studio album, Endless Beginnings. It's scheduled for release on March the 20th, 2026 via Massacre Records. Apparently, more Endless Beginnings album details and a music video for the track can be found over here. We'll skip that. Let's hear what this new song sounds like. Mass Grave Mass. Another thrash revival band that I really enjoy. I'm not really familiar with their other stuff. I'll certainly check it out after hearing that. But here's a question that I will pose in view of what we just heard. I don't mean to make every news rant a space to dump on old Dave Mustaine, but if he's sitting there sobbing about Metallica taking them on tour, why not lead by example and take Warsenal and Deathstorm out on the road with you? Or Fugitive, or Cruel Force for that matter, or, several other modern thrash metal bands that absolutely fucking kick ass. Instead, on this Megadeth farewell tour that they're on right now, my understanding is it's Megadeth, Anthrax, and Exodus. I mean, I get the sentiment behind that package, but Anthrax and Exodus can draw their own audience quite easily. Why don't you do something to pass the baton over to guys like this who perform their music with real passion, real conviction? That is a fucking cool song. Again, shades of old Megadeth. There's a bit of Forbidden that I picked up in there. Maybe a little bit of Dark Angel at a stretch, but it's got aggression, it's got catchiness, it's got great fucking riffs. I love that little melodic break that they threw in there. So yeah, overall gets the thumbs up for me without a doubt. But my question is, Why is the old guard not doing enough to elevate these bands? Like a band like that should 1000% be out on the road with somebody like Megadeth. Moving swiftly on to our next song, Yoth Iria have detailed their third full-length. Yoth Iria proudly announced the release of their third full-length installment, Gone with the Devil, due out worldwide on May the 8th, 2026 on Metal Blade Records. To taste a first piece of the new music, give a spin to the blind eye of Antichrist. On the very, very off chance you didn't know it, it won't come as any surprise to you to learn that Jim Mutilator, from formerly of Rotting Christ, is in Yoth Iria. Fucking great stuff. I was talking to the Magus about it on last week's episode, in case you didn't watch that one. And we were talking specifically about how Greek black metal got its personality, that really verbose, like almost stadium size black metal that bands like Rotting Christ, I mean, to a lesser degree, the Magus is doing that with his solo stuff as well. But that like really epic feel, where does that come from? And it was interesting getting the Magus's perspective on it. But you absolutely hear that influence of everybody from Manowar to, I mean, as the Magus himself said, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, all of that comes together in this really, really ambitious package that forms, in my view, the very best of most Greek black metal bands. And that's true of old and new. Maybe some of the newer bands like Vothroch, do something a little bit more edgy. But, with a lot of the old guard, they do love themselves some classic heavy metal, and they're not shy about bringing those influences in, and I love them for it. I thought that song was great. It's not, is it as severe as Marduk? Is it as, face ripping as the new Mayhem? No, but it is unique. It's interesting. It is, it definitely does justice to the legacies of the men in the band. And then another thing that I should mention, Rustam, their vocalist, took over from the Magus himself, who was on As the Flame Withers. He's got big shoes to fill, but I think he does a very adequate job of making that happen. So great stuff. Thumbs up from me. Okay, let's jump into another question. Sokura _1875 asked me a question on YouTube. Great words of wisdom for younger listeners too. Potential question for a future show. What advice would you give to someone a little older, perhaps 40 and upwards, who realize that they're not quite content with the choices they've made in life? It could be family, fitness, finances, or even unrealized musical ambitions. I ask because from listening to the show, it seems as though you've made some bold choices and turned parts of your life around in the last decade or so. A lot of people are happy to settle or simply become lazy and bitter as the years march on. Excellent question. I love getting questions like this, but I'm always very... I want to go to pains to stress to anyone who's listening to this. I never want to come across as preachy or like I think I'm Tony Robbins or like I'm some sort of fucking, lifestyle. I don't want to self-style myself as some sort of lifestyle coach or lifestyle guru. I have made many mistakes in my life, professionally, financially, and definitely personally. I have learned an awful lot from that. And the most important lesson that I've learned from those experiences is that regardless of what you're unhappy with in your life, while you are still drawing breath, you can make a change. And there is absolutely no better time to start that process than the here and now. Start with small things that you can comfortably commit to. If I take my fitness journey, for example, I started going to the gym in February of 2005. When I first moved to the UK, I didn't do any exercise whatsoever. I became a fucking fat slob. But in February 2005, I started to go to the gym. At first, I went twice a week, and I went for roughly about 30 minutes a day. And then I started to see results. By the middle of the year, I was going 3 times a week. By the start of 2006, I was thinking to myself, well, I wonder what I can achieve if I go 4 times a week. And then a few months later, I thought maybe it would be a good idea to join the Muay Thai classes at the gym that I was going to on top of the weight training. And then by the end of 2007, I was literally exercising twice a day, 5 days a week. And I was feeling healthier than I had done in my entire life. Now, I understand that that sort of regimen isn't going to be manageable for many people. And my training personally isn't as frequent anymore. I go to the gym. I try and do 4 days a week. Much of it is now weightlifting focused, and then I try and do cardio throughout the day. My point is, though, the first step to making changes in your life is to just do something that you can stick to consistently. If it's fitness, I've kind of given you the view. Even if you just go once a week, for 45 minutes. Just make it something that you're not going to flunk out on. You're not going to flake out on. And then from there, compliance is the science. You'll see that as soon as you start to do that consistently, you'll naturally want to do more of it. If you have unrealized musical ambitions, just commit to playing the guitar 30 minutes a week, twice a week. 30 minutes a day, twice a week. And who knows, in a 6 months time, you might be practicing 45 minutes a day every single day. Next thing you know, you're playing as good as the dudes from Archspire. Not that is very likely, but you might be a prodigy and you don't even realize it. But it is just taking that first step. The first step is the biggest obstacle. Once you've navigated that, you would be amazed in what that could turn to. The same principle applies with managing finances. I played a little fast and loose, as I've mentioned before, with the old credit cards in my 20s. But, again, I'm fortunate in one sense that as much as I was reckless with money, way more reckless with money than I should have been, I was able to out-earn my mistakes just through advancing my career. But after my divorce in 2015, and I don't know whether I've spoken about it on this podcast or whether it was something I had spoken about on Iblis Manifestations, I found myself in a very, very challenging spot. I had, for the better part of a year, after all my expenses were paid and all my child maintenance was paid, I only had about £200 left a month for any form of spending. So anything that went wrong was, it was fucking what they refer to here in the UK as squeaky bum time. But I still managed to get myself back on track. I started small, and I remember specifically when I did it. I took one of my credit cards, cut it up, and I focused on paying that one down. Then I did the next one, and so on. And now I'm in a significantly better position than I was before. I'm actually thinking from a money perspective about saving up for retirement more so than just making it to the end of every month with my ass intact, with a loan sharks keeping away from the door. And that's a much, much better place to be. But again, starts with small changes. When it comes to the ladies, Matt Prezzo and I spoke about this last week. If you haven't taken the plunge to get married yet, then understand that the quickest path to fucking up or seriously derailing your life is to marry the wrong woman. As a man, you will bear the brunt of any financial fallout stemming from that divorce, not to mention the pain of not being able to see your children every day if there are children involved. So as you know, like from my perspective, as with most things in life, I have made some very foolish decisions when it comes to women. I will say I don't regret any of it. Had I not met my ex-wife, for example, I would today not be the very proud father of, probably the most amazing and coolest daughter I could ever have wished for. And my experiences also brought me to the realization that this Hollywood idea of romance and love that we, particularly men of a certain generation, have been conditioned into thinking is the way things get done. It has really done us no favor. There is nothing noble in pursuing the, quote, woman of your dreams, especially not in an age where time and attention are as commoditized as they've become through social media, dating apps, etc. So, my life and my luck when it came to, finding the one really turned around dramatically when I made the decision to only focus, to exclusively focus every single day of my life on what I defined as excellence. And my definition of excellence at the time was, one, being a great dad, spending as much quality time with my daughter as I possibly could, taking care of myself physically, and making sure that every single day at work I kicked as much ass as I possibly could, whether I wanted to be there or not, whether I liked my job or not. And when that way of thinking and operating embedded itself in my life to a greater degree, I actually found myself attracting probably more women than I'd ever done in my entire life up to that point. I had I enjoyed all of the fruits that bachelor life had to offer me for a couple of years, and then when I met my wife, when I introduced her into my life, I was adding her to my life from a place of actually making an intentional decision, not from, a place of weakness, of needing her, feeling like, without you, my life is pointless. You complete me, Jerry Maguire kind of fucking bullshit. But I think because of how we got together and because of how intentional I could be when it came to deciding that I wanted to be with her and I wanted her in my life, I think that's one of the reasons why we've been together for nearly 8 years. And it's been the healthiest and the most functional relationship that I've ever had. One final thought to share with you on that. If you find you have struggled to meet someone, get out of the mindset that you need a ton of shared interests with a potential romantic partner. It is way more important that your approach to life, your operating system, your blueprint, whatever you want to call it, is similar and your values align. My wife and I differ dramatically when it comes to our taste in movies, music, on basically just about everything. But it's never been a problem because the way that we approach to life, the way that we respond to life's challenges, our operating system, if you will, is very, very similar. So there you have my answer. If you haven't skipped past the last 5 minutes of the podcast, I hope at least some of what I have said to you has proven useful. Again, as I said, I never want to sound contrived or like I think I know everything, but hopefully you can learn at least from from my own bitter experience and the mistakes that I've made. Okay, Venom announced new album. The legendary Venom have unveiled details and a first single in regards to their upcoming new full-length offering dubbed Into Oblivion. Strangely enough, also the name of the new Lamb of God album. The album is due out on May the 1st. They've put out a new single called Lay Down Your Soul. Let's hear what it's all about.
Come on!
pause there. It's not bad. It's fun. It's entertaining. I don't know whether it's something that I would have any great desire to revisit. I'm certainly not going to be counting down to May the 1st going, it's Venom Day, hurrah! For reference, my favorite Venom tracks, without a doubt, the Seven Gates of Hell, that to me is just peak Venom. That's the best thing that they've ever done. 1000 Days in Sodom, I love. Witching Hour, I absolutely love. Off of black metal, I love Buried Alive. I love Countess Bathory, but then who doesn't? So yeah, that's if you want to calibrate how I would view this song, then I think it's worth telling you what other Venom tracks I like. I mean, do I consider Venom to be as important as Bathory in terms of in the grand scheme of things? No fucking way, no chance. I mean, I understand Venom's importance in black metal, but I don't think that they definitely live in the shadow of Bathory, in my opinion, for a variety of reasons. Again, I can hear the sort of referential tone in the song here, referencing the song black metal. So again, I mean, it's going to be something that I think real diehard Venom fans are going to absolutely love, but for me, doesn't really do much. Doesn't really shift the needle. I just wanted to mention this very quickly, by the way. Very sad news about Justin Broderick. He announced on Instagram this week that he has been, I mean, essentially he's got medical issues that effectively mean that Godflesh is done. Will never perform live again. Probably won't record another album again. It is due to I'm probably going to mispronounce this, but inguinal hernia. So it's a hernia either way that was so severe that it required like open surgery. Apparently the open surgery couldn't be keyhole surgery either. So the amount of recovery involved in this is going to be massive. He's 57 years old, and that probably exasperates the recovery a little bit. But just from my side, I highly doubt that Justin will ever be listening to Into the Necrosphere, but on the off chance that he is, just good vibes from my end. I hope you get better soon, and I'm glad to hear that you are taking good care of your health or prioritizing your health, because you've given the world an awful lot. I mean, anybody who's anybody in this scene has some degree of a debt of gratitude to pay to Godflesh for the influence that they've had on extreme music. And I hope that Justin gets to a point where he can live his life with dignity. So that's all I got to say about that. Trelldom are putting out a new long player in the spring. Already have a lot of feedback from all of you on this song. Norwegian black metal act Trelldom, founded by legendary vocalist Gol, reveal a bleak music video called By the Word as the first advanced single taken from their newly announced forthcoming record, also entitled By the Word. It will get released by Prophecy Productions on May the 29th, 2026. Let's hear what it sounds like. as much as I'm intrigued to hear what the rest of the song sounds like, let me pause there. There is no denying that the previous Trelldom record, By the Shadows, I've personally found to be extremely disappointing. And it was partly because, by my own admission at the time, I was expecting to hear a return to the feral, aggressive black metal of Till Minna, which Trelldom put out in 2007, and which, in my view, is one of the finest performances that Garl has ever recorded. It is a phenomenal album. I have championed it on this podcast for a very long time. And if you haven't listened to it yet, and you're in the mood for some icy cold black metal, it comes highly recommended. By the Shadows was such a huge departure that it took me by surprise. And I don't know whether it's because of that album that I'm now more conditioned into expecting something very different. But I certainly don't find myself disliking this new single as much as I disliked the first single that I heard off of By the Shadows. I still am not entirely convinced by the Shadows. I was very surprised when Mike Hill and I did our 2024 top 30 or top 10 roundup. And he mentioned that was his favorite album of the year. I mean, talk about taking me by surprise. That was a bit of a shock. And I have gone back to it, and I still don't feel as convinced by it as he did at the time, although I can see his point and I can see why he liked it. But By the Word, I think it's certainly darker. There's something about it, and maybe it's just the fucking crazy time that we're living in, the ever-shifting, dynamic global geopolitical landscape. There is a darkness and a morbidity to this that feels very timely to me. And maybe that's why the song is resonating with me a little bit more. I do think that melody is nice and catchy as well. Garl's vocals sound great. And one thing, as much as I miss his black metal scream, the one thing that you cannot take away from him is his clean vocals have been improving exponentially with every release that he's done them on. He sounded fantastic on the last Graveir record. Again, he sounds very, very, very solid here as well. No question, there are a lot of you, and I know this for an absolute fact because I've seen them. I've seen the messages, I've seen the DMs. A lot of you that won't like this, but I don't hate it. Garl, when I spoke to him last year for the episode that I recorded, and again, if you haven't seen that, make sure you check it out. But he was extremely excited about this record, so I'm looking forward to hearing what the rest of it's going to sound like. Does it carry away and into the Necrosphere thumbs up? I think that it does. But again, with a concession that it is absolutely not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Okay, couple more questions, and then we'll do one more song, and I think then it's time for a fucking full-throated, mean-spirited Swirly of the week. But I did have one question here that I was very amused by. E_JME_E asks, agriculture? ? I'm assuming they want to know whether I like agriculture, and the answer to that question, of course, is a very strong no. They are not my tempo. The first album was a rather pathetic attempt at black metal using a ton of major chords and sounding very happy. The phrasing ecstatic black metal made me sick to my stomach. I think that they've moved away from black metal, at least from the bits that I've heard. This new material of theirs sounds a lot more mathcore inspired. It still sucks, though. It's just not... If it's your thing, more power to you. You can listen to whatever you want. It's definitely not my thing. As a black metal band, they are a total fucking flop. I don't like their music. I don't like their lyrics. I don't like their look. I don't like their vibe. And then the last record, they moved away slightly from that kind of overt major chord nonsense, but I still don't care for it. I mean, I don't like mathcore anyway, so no chance was I going to like them move a band I already dislike doing a genre that I can't stand. We've got Riley Rust Fish Hunt asking me, what song would you love to hear? What band cover? So I'll throw one at you completely from left field. Crowbar covering Nirvana's Heart-Shaped Box. Think about that one for us. Chew on that one for a second. Some of you have probably already switched off the podcast. As soon as the word Nirvana came out of my mouth, you hit stop. Those of you that didn't, I've actually thought for a long time that Crowbar could do an exceptional cover of that song. Nice and slow, soft and brooding for the verse. heavy crushing crowbar sludge for the chorus. With Kirk Winstein doing the vocals, I think that would sound absolutely fucking exceptional. I love when a band can take a song that you don't expect them to do and translate that into their own creative language. My favorite covers have been Do You Think I'm Sexy and Let's Get Physical by Revolting Cocks. I love, although you could argue this is a cover that you would expect them to do, but I love Typo Negative's cover of Black Sabbath. And again, can't argue that if we take Black Sabbath for an example, that is a song that they completely turned into a Typo Negative song. It's fantastic for it. So that's one I would love to see. I'd love to see Kirk take on a song like that. He did a phenomenal job of Iron Maiden's Remember Tomorrow. And there's a couple of other covers that he's done over the years that I've thought have just been absolutely superb. Yeah. Which covers would you guys like to see? Drop a note in the comments. Okay, let's do one more song. All right, actually, wait, no. There was one other question. Margarita Costa 270 asked me on YouTube what my favorite grunge band was. I can't remember whether he put a caveat in there, but I mean, I don't really have a favorite grunge band is the simple answer to that question. I didn't massively like the genre. I have songs by bands that I think are great. There are songs by Nirvana that I really enjoy. There are songs by Soundgarden that I really enjoy. Do I enjoy enough of it to call myself a fan? Out of all those bands, probably Soundgarden is the one that I consistently like the most. There are some Alice in Chains songs that I think are excellent, but I mean, I don't think Dirt, for example, is the perfect record that many people think that it is. That's just personal opinion, but that's how I feel. But yeah, I wouldn't say I've got a favorite grunge band. If I was put on the spot and I had to answer the question, I would say Soundgarden. If I had to say my favorite musician to come from that era, then it's Mark Lanegan, without any question. I mean, Mark Lanegan to me is one of the greatest of the greats, one of the best singers, just in terms of the way his vocals could stir emotion in you. I just think he was peerless, absolutely peerless. Something else I should probably mention, albums I'm listening to at the moment. I am listening to, and I thought about that because if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see I just passed the news about Black Braid's new single. I really do like that Black Braid EP, Nocturnal Womb. I think it's very good. Nosgore, A World Ablaze, fucking exceptional stuff. A band out of Ireland called Coscrad, and I'll play a Coscrad song at the end of the episode. But they've put out a record on 20 Buck Spin called Carving the Causeway to the Otherworld. Fucking top notch. And then, of course, this week's guest, Necrofier, Transcend Into Oblivion. I love that album. Slagmar, Holder's Ritual, another absolute winner. I am working very hard to try and get Runa from Slagmar to be a guest on the podcast. So watch this space. Okay, actually, let's skip the song. Let's head straight to my Swirly of the Week. No. Oh, you like? This week's Swirly very nearly didn't happen until yesterday morning. I was having my morning coffee and I stumbled across somebody sufficiently deserving of the dunk. I found this gem on that wellspring of brain leprosy known as the Is It Sketch subreddit that I've spoken about many times before. I'm just going to share it up on screen so you guys don't think that I'm making all of this up, because it is somewhat hard to believe. But anyway, the poster in question is called Elemental Warrior 42, and in the post he implores fellow members in Metal's Red Guard to provide him with suggestions for, and I quote, left-wing, non-shitty, gothic, or generally sad doom. Revealing reasons for this urgent appeal, Elemental Warrior 42 writes, unfortunately learned that Paradise Lost, Warning, and to a lesser extent My Dying Bride are a bit shitty, and am looking for more gothic doom with members that are left-wing or not shitty. I know Pallbearer are cool dudes, and Mourning Beloved don't seem to have anything that jumps out at me, so shoot some Rex at me. Now, we'll go into some of what transpired as this conversation progressed, but honestly, how this Paradise Lost bullshit, these accusations around Paradise Lost have managed to stick in certain quarters after just some spurious nonsense. It just tells you everything you need to know about the level of intelligence you're dealing with here. But anyway, at least a few members took time out of their busy schedule, either defrauding the taxpayer or posting pro-Ayatollah memes on social media to offer a raft of mostly mid suggestions, but a few counter-revolutionaries had questions. Ribbit_Ribbit666 seemed confused by the branding of My Dying Bride as shitty, mentioning that while they hadn't followed the band's recent work, they hadn't seen anything damning about the band either. Elemental Warrior was quick off the mark, though. Andrew Cragen seems to believe in the whole plandemic nonsense. Not super terrible by itself, and here's the best part. But if you're the kind of old British guy that falls for that misinfo, you'll probably fall for worse stuff. Not 100% certain, though. So the takeaway from that is basically that any even slight questioning of the government is now considered wrong, and true rebels live by whatever the government tells them without questioning it. Secondly, you can never be too sure when it comes to, quote, old British men, so you should probably err on the side of a preemptive cancellation to keep your mind pure and anti-capitalist. There was more dissident thinking from somebody named X Doom Patrol X, who asked why Warning were deemed sketchy, and once again, Elemental Warrior 42 proved why he is, in fact, the biggest and purest communist in the yard with this scathing retort. Associated with Richard Walker of Solstice, apparently liked his Instagram posts about conspiracy stuff. They had a falling out 15 years ago, but the other info seems to suggest they patched it up. No mention of where this other info comes from. The use of the word apparently in the comment is very telling because apparently, no pun intended, the Richard Walker Association is based around another claim made on a Reddit post about Warning supposedly daring to tap the like button on an Instagram post. If you go to that post, there's no mention of a screenshot, no proof of any kind. But because the accusation was leveled that Warning liked a post not pre-approved by the proletariat, they are now officially cancelled. The grand finale, though, of soft-headed thinking came when Paradise Lost was placed under the microscope. Even the slightest doubts about the Yorkshire bourgeois doom legends were quickly laid to rest with one word: Israel. So apparently, of course, not only had Nick or has Nick appeared on a dreaded far-right podcast, the one you're listening to currently, but perhaps their worst offense, according to Elemental Warrior 42, is that Paradise Lost have performed for their no-good, rotten fans in Israel. I just need to find this part. So, Gatos Pimenta asked, isn't Paradise Lost non-sketch Elemental Warrior 42 always quick off the mark? Play a lot in Israel, and Nick Holmes follows notorious transphobe Graham Linehan on Twitter. The first thing is obviously more bad, but still. Now, again, that Graham Linehan follow accusation came with absolutely zero evidence. Nick Holmes isn't even on Twitter anymore. But, be that as it may, and by the way, Elemental Warrior actually says he has no proof of it. He just got it from that post. Another member on this subreddit asks, isn't boycotting Jewish things the most sketchy thing you can do? And then Elemental Warrior proving that the Nazis were not called National Socialists by accident. He goes, Jewish equals Israeli. I'd say playing in a colonialist ethno-state is pretty sketchy. Somebody named Alternafart then says, like another commentator wrote, boycott bands that are playing in the USA. And Elemental Warrior came back with a, US is a lot harder to avoid than Israel, dude. So your principles are now also constrained by geographic limitations. Anyway, to summarize, all bands basically who dare to suggest that any sort of governmental overreach is bad are accused of liking non-compliant social media posts and have ever played in Israel and potentially the United States are hereby verboten. At least according to the Brain Trust and the Little Generals who make up the Is It Sketch membership. It would honestly be tragic were it not so damn hilarious and with this subreddit not a continued wellspring for my amusement, but got to say that today it is Elemental Warrior 42's turn to step up, have his work unit issued underpants yanked up past his ears, have his little blue hair head shoved down the toilet bowl of justice, and as he accepts his Swirly of the Week. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of episode 308. Like I said earlier, my guests next week will be Chris Norton and Simon Lucas from Winterfilleth, talking about their new album, The Unyielding Season. I'm going to play out with a track off that new Coscrad album. I think you guys are going to like this, so stick around to hear what that sounds like. But before I go, just to thank you once again for all of the support, the feedback, the questions, and whatever it is that you are doing, my friends, and wherever it is that you are. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next week.